Hey YouTube, it's Steve over at Tower Genius. I'm one of the partners here. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the truth about what average cell tower lease rates are. So the truth about average cell tower lease rates. And you know, the reason I'm making this video is because we do get a lot of people that you know, ask about and look for, you know, what are the average cell tower lease rates? What's the average rent that these companies pay? You know, I've been trying to negotiate a deal. What am I supposed to offer as far as business terms? Or maybe, you know, you are trying to get a tower on your property and you're wondering what they pay. Well, here's the thing. So, you know, if you look on Google, you'll find plenty of you know, the pundits out there, some of my, you know, so-called competitors that'll put out, well, the average cell tower lease rate is this or that, or it's 1,200 or 1,500, or, you know, out of the 5,000, you know, sites in my database, you know, the average cell tower lease rate is this or that. And here's what I have to say about that. That's great. You know, everybody has a calculator and a spreadsheet. That's fine. The average cell tower lease rate means absolutely nothing, okay? If you could have, let's say the average cell tower lease, I'm in Okaloosa County, Florida, if I took the average of all cell sites that I could, you know, figure out what the market data was, it'll come out to a certain number. That means absolutely nothing. You know, the tower behind me is on county property, for example. I know that they're going to pay a premium there. The carriers and the original lease was at a premium, okay? So whoever bought the tower that was assigned, you know, behind me is also paying a premium. You know, if the property owner took a $500 a month offer and was just worried about losing the deal, then they got a $500 a month deal, escalating at whatever 7% every 5 years is some ridiculous number. So the average cell tower lease rate really means nothing. You could have, you know, sites in Bergen County, New Jersey, where the average cell tower lease rate might be $2,000-$3,000 a month on a ground lease. And you know, I've still seen you know, rooftop cell sites that started out, you know, for less than $1,500. Give you an example, okay? So this past couple days, I've been looking at 3 water tower cell sites with a certain carrier. Let's just call them, for argument's sake, T-Mobile. Not saying it is, but maybe it is. So one of the cell sites, actually 2 of the cell sites that I looked at are in metropolitan areas that have about 1 million people in them. And both of those leases are in the $2,500 to $2,750 range on water tanks, okay? And these are you know, in areas where there's an existing water tower and they're on water tanks. You know, it's a premium site, right? People don't want a new cell tower going up around their McMansions, right? If there's an existing water tank, especially if it's in a residential area, carriers tend to flock there, right? The other let's call it T-Mobile, maybe it's somebody else, but it's probably T-Mobile. The other water tank cell site that I'm looking at is also in a big city. It's about 2 million people in 2 to 3 million in that metropolitan area. And you know, T-Mobile there is paying about $4,800 a year. Hey, that's you know, that's quite a bit less, right? So what happened? Did the cell site you know, site acquisition person bamboozle these people, or they just didn't know the values? So you really need to look at each site on a site-by-site basis, and that's what it just comes down to. And you know, if you're in a rural area, you'll probably get offered $500, $600 a month, and most likely it's going to be a developer, and the developer is going to have their tenant, which is Verizon or AT&T, that pays them anywhere from, you know, $1,800 to $2,000 a month to start out. So you're not going to see a $2,000 a month ground lease there. Also, average cell tower lease rates, you know, are they ground leases? Is it something like where, let's say, Dish Network, who's now deploying sites all over the country, is looking to add antennas onto an existing tower, and they just don't have room inside the footprint, and they need to go onto your land? And, you know, do they offer you like $300? Because I've seen a bunch of that too. Is that the average cell tower lease rate? It's a ground lease, right? But is that what it's worth? Heck no. But you got to keep in mind that Dish is probably paying American Tower, or Crown Castle, or SBA, or whoever else, Phoenix Tower. They're probably paying those folks at least $1,500 a month to be there. So any additional ground rent they got to pay, they're going to cry poverty, and they're going to try to get it for as cheap as possible. So you have to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. You don't compare bananas to watermelons. I know it's a great analogy, right? So the truth about the average cell tower lease rate is, if you don't believe that you can get a great deal, you probably won't. If the carriers realize that you have doubt or they smell blood in the water, they're going to pounce on you and they're going to eat you for lunch in the negotiation. And that's why you need to work with an expert and a professional that has seen thousands of these deals. Kevin Donahue and I have been in the industry combined. We have 50 plus years combined cell site lease review, negotiation, and development experience. Kevin ran 9X Mobile in the New York market, was responsible for 10,000 cell sites going up in the Northeast. And, and he brought me into this business in 2000. He probably regrets it, but so that's how we got into this business. And we started helping landlords around 2008, 2009, and we've been doing that exclusively ever since. So if you have questions about what is the average cell tower lease rate, it is specific for your site. And I'll give you one more example. In South Carolina, we had a absentee landlord from Chicago that was getting a Verizon lease at a store that he owned, a Verizon store property. And the folks at Verizon, the tower was there. There's something happened, and they need to get a lease going there. Long story short, Verizon offered this fella $700. Take it or leave it. After looking at the site, after looking at the surrounding network, looking at the zoning, we determined that lease was worth multiples of that. And I'm not going to give you the price, but the fella got a couple $1,000s more monthly just to start out. And since then, there's been additional co-location. So the carrier brought a list, showed us a list of and this was pretty funny, a list of, I think it was about 10 or so sites between $700 and like $1,100-1,200 on leases that the carrier had signed in that county. So they came up with an average price and comps, which never happens. You won't be able to find them on the internet. And we said, that's great, but we looked at the site and it's worth this. And they ended up paying it after about 6 months. The client was thrilled. So again, you can have average cell tower lease rates, and the truth is, every cell site is valued on a site-by-site basis, and you can take that to the bank. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, one more thing here. I almost forgot. So another example that I'll give you is, we looked at a couple of deals this past week with a company. I'm not going to name the name, a tower developer, and out of the Northeast, and they're building sites all over the place. So I looked at a deal this week where the tower company found a site, and they ended up doing a deal with the property owner who took the deal. And I'll tell you the details here in a second. Just walk in here. So the guy took a deal and ended up doing a 99-year deal for the crazy amount of, what the heck did he pay? It was $85,000 for 99 years. $85,000. That, do the math on that one. That's like less than $900. It's less than $900 a year. And this fella did a deal. And, I don't know if they thought it was a good deal or not. Pretty terrible deal if you ask me. And then the same tower company that I looked at, another deal, these folks offered a landlord $1,500 a month, right? Sounds like a great deal, right? But the fine print in the deal, you have to look at that. This fella, client of ours, former client, has 2 other cell sites on the same property. What happens if, we don't pay close attention to the lease, he doesn't pay close attention to the lease, and ends up, having 2 of those tenants poached for a lower price, right? So you really got to pay close attention to these deals. The average cell tower lease rate, what is it, right? If you look at that deal, the guy was getting offered about $900 a month, $75, $80 a month for a 99-year easement. Are you out of your minds, but people sign these things. The tower companies love it. It's a great deal for them. Hey, if I was a tower company, maybe I'd do that too, right? It's capitalism, full blown, capitalism, but it's crazy, right? And the tower company also offered a deal to the same tower company, at the same site, where they do a revenue share deal, like whatever it was, 25%. But again, what happens if they end up poaching some of those other tenants off these other sites? And, the landlord would lose out. So you really have to look at these proposals closely. Every site is determined on a site-by-site basis, depending, and influencing factors are zoning and land use and, the surrounding wireless network. You got to pay close attention to the lease. So the truth about average cell tower lease rates is there is no average unless you're an average reader and you don't care about, specifics. And, this might sound a little crude, but do you want an average deal or a mediocre deal, or do you want an exceptional deal? You could still have a $500 a month lease, and it could be a complete blessing to you, especially if the lease is done properly and it's fair, right? How many rental properties, people that do these house flipping deals and stuff where they have a $500 positive cash flow? I mean, that's great, right? So you want to make sure that if you're going to do a deal for 500 or 600 or 1,000, that it's done properly. The average cell tower lease agreement needs to have about 24 to 36 modifications just to make it fair. And if you don't watch these things closely, you're going to end up getting a bad deal. And I'd rather have a $500 a month lease, cell tower lease on my property that was structured properly than have a $2,000 a month lease where my land is encumbered and I have no rights and my hands are tied. So that's my opinion. And check us out at towergenius.com. If you need help with your cell site lease, give us a call at 888-313-9750 and have a great day. Thank you.